3 years ago today, right here, a phenomenon happened that completely altered my body chemistry as well as this sanctuary. My name is Alexandra Ash. I run Kinkatopia. And on October 5th, 2022, my sanctuary was attacked by a swarm of Africanized killer bees. Right here, the nest was right up in one of these branches. First of all, so much has changed since then. I've had a lot of therapy. I think it's important to say that the events from that day, they literally became embedded in my spine. I mean, I've been diagnosed with PTSD pretty much for my whole life. You know, and this was just something that was compounded on it. It's something I never anticipated as an animal owner, a rescue owner. I mean, I planned for disasters, like we're supposed to. I planned for hurricanes, things of that nature, but like, you don't think that a swarm of Africanized killer bees, like, so anyways, we're gonna go back. Grab some earbuds if you want. We're gonna go back, we're gonna talk about it. It's been 3 whole years. I mean, my life has completely altered since then, but again, the bees. Here's another crazy thing with the timing of all of this. And what I'm learning here as a 38-year-old woman who's been running a sanctuary for over a decade, doing rescue, how that alters a person. And especially doing social media. I mean, here I am opening up comfortably in front of all of you, but put me in a room with one person who I care about what truly thinks of me, and I'm like, so here we are. For those of you who don't know, Hercules got injured yesterday. He is okay, but I had to run him down to Wellaby Vet. And every single ride to the vet reminds me, like, in some form of a flashback. I do get flashbacks from this situation. It is a little, no, I'm not gonna call it crazy. I always try to minimize it, and I always try to put it on myself, but like the bottom line is that I'm a human being who experienced this very chaotic, phenomenal trauma, and this is who I am on the other side. So I can tell you that around 1 o'clock on October 5th, 2022, I had Ariel. We were sitting outside, I was doing work, she was cuddling, and I got a call from my next door neighbor, Jeff here, and he said, hey, I think something's wrong with one of the kinks. And that's when I came out and I saw Mila. And you guys know how teeny tiny Mila was. Mila. I came out here and she was on the ground. Bees were everywhere. Now, and let me back up, Africanized killer bees. They are these special kind of almost like weaponized bees, and they're very sensitive to sound, so you can't make any noise. No noise. It was like something out of a horror movie. You can't make any noise. They attack you, and they are just warriors. They go ham. So I find Mila in this, I will never, I still hear her screams. There were bees crawling down her throat. And then I remember I looked up on the platform and Momo was up there, and of course he's one of my bigger ones, and he was just covered. And I knew I needed to put Ariel away. I did put her away. I came back out. I had crates, I had gloves, and I just grabbed them. I got in the car. I was getting stung. I mean, at the end, I was stung all over. It's fine. It is what it is. I just left, and I turned like a 30-minute drive to the vet into like 20 minutes. And like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I remember. Like, I can tell you guys, and I still get vivid flashbacks of this on the highway. And I have trouble in the vet's office. It was really hard for a long time for me to be there. And it still is, with all of the loss that goes on, and with all of the good and the bad. But it's really hard. But I drove, they were in their carriers, and the whole time Mila, she freaking screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed the whole way there. I drove like a maniac. I laid on my horn. I was all over. I actually got pulled over once, and I just yelled out the window, officer, my animals are dying. So I ran. We drove, and we got there and rushed everyone into the back and immediately performed triage. They were put under and given antihistamines, pain medication, the whole 9. Wellaby Vet is incredible. We've been through so many experiences together. They're basically kink specialists at this point, but they've always been so kind. So once they were stable, I made the decision to leave, and I think at that point I heard that Oliver, and mind you too, these are my older Kinkajous, like Momo and Oliver, like 15, now they're 16, 17, whatever. I got a call from my ex. Oliver was on the ground, but he managed to put him in a crate. And my next door neighbor, Christine here, drove him down to join the other two at Wellaby. I came back here, and on my drive home, I called my pest control guy. He's like, I'm canceling my day, I'll be right there. That's when I learned that we were not the only ones being affected by the bees. My next door neighbor's back here behind, Lawn. She's in her mid-80s, husband in mid-80s, and their infant grandchild at that time was over. And apparently this is where the bees started. She was out front raking shortly before 1 o'clock, and the bees came up. They attacked her first, and she actually went to the ICU. She went to the ICU. She was stung hundreds of times. I think her husband was stung like 40 times. The grandchild was okay, thank God. So I came back knowing that it was a neighborhood incident. I called whatever neighbor's phone numbers I had. I let them know, do not go outside. Now this was just a coincidence, but a neighbor catty corner has honeybees. And at this point too, remember, we didn't know that they were killer bees. We thought that they were honeybees. So I'm calling this guy, I'm calling them. They weren't honeybees. But keep that in mind, because a bee suit is going to come into play later. Not many people have bee suits lying around, but by the grace of God, my next door neighbors had one. So 3 kinks at the vet. I come back on site here. I learn that I need to evacuate all the Kinkajous from this portion of the yard. The nest has been identified. They're going to come blow the thing up. They're going to completely eradicate it, but I need to get my animals out. I called Rory. I should add that. I called Rory. She was probably one of the first people I called, and it was no questions asked. She was on her way over. So I had my ex here, I had Rory here, and me. We're waiting for the pest guy, and I know that I need to evacuate the yard. That's where this bee suit comes into play. Like, I would never have thought, is at any point in my life, that I would be wearing a bee suit, running throughout my backyard, trying to be as quiet as possible. Mind you, communicating with Rory with like hand signals, because if you make too much noise, the bees are gonna go after you. I'm like pulling open their boxes, because remember, they're asleep. I'm pulling open their boxes, I'm cutting zip ties. I'm just like, I don't care. I'm tearing things apart, I'm grabbing them. I think maybe I did 1 or 2 in a crate, and then after that, I literally would just grab them and tuck my body around them and run. And we had set up cages, and this is all before we did the indoor room. Remember, the indoor room, it's done now, was sparked and made possible because of the bees. So this was around the time of Hurricane Ian. So the theory is that the hurricane had displaced the nest, and then they built that thing in like a day or 2. It was so big. It was so big. We got the nest taken care of. I started to fill you guys in on what was going on, and as soon as I did, the outpour of help was incredible. Like, I didn't even have to fundraise. You guys started doing that for us. You know, I had to figure out, we had the animals at the vet. We knew that we were gonna need to get like tree trimmers in here to work on the area. We had pest control, you know, it was gonna be crazy. And again, by the grace of God, the next day, I had some friends, some connections, and it was a Saturday, and we were able to get a company, Viking Tree Company, who's the same company we call every year and who we're gonna be calling this year, come in, and they, you know, made sure that they take down all of the trees around the perimeter, just so it doesn't make for like a nice place for bees to go. So that's part of the pest control, and that's what we have coming up. We need to do the entire perimeter here, trim back this tree, and make sure that everything is prevented so we don't have an incident like that happen again. The next couple of days were a whirlwind, but I want to share something when it comes to social media. This was a turning point for me, because I think up until around this, you probably would have seen me a lot more active with creators, but this changed it for me. This truly, truly did, because at the end of the day, these people don't want to help, okay? They want to know what's going on so they can seem like they're closer than they are. And this person contacted me, offered empathy, and said, how can I help you? And I said, please get the word out. Please get the word out. And this was the day of. So I'm like, I don't know what's going to be happening, but I just want people to know that like this is happening. We need help. She She goes, okay, no problem, just say the word. I said, I'm saying the word right now. This individual who has been to my home never peeped a word. Never peeped a word. But she sure liked to seem like she knew what was going on. You know, it happened with a couple others too, where what I realized was these people were not calling because they cared. They were calling because they had self-fulfilling motives. Okay? The people who showed up for me during this time were you. It was the community, the incredible outpour of the community, and you guys carried us through. Momo came home, he got lobster, you know, you guys took care of Oliver, you took care of me. I have so much just amazing art and messages, and I kept them all. It's amazing. It's amazing. Of course, we know that Mila did not make it home. I took her to the emergency vet that evening, and then I was called because they did not think that there was anything else they could do for her. And Mila, remember, Mila's one that I never even held, guys, but I got to the emergency vet, Pet Emergency Center, who we also use all the time, absolutely adore. You know, they thought it was time, but they walked in the door and they had her just balled up in a towel, and I knew. And they handed her to me, and I knew. And I called her family, we FaceTimed. I will always notify families in events like that. We decided that we were gonna let her go. And, you know, the vet took her back to prepare her and bring her back in, and she actually let herself go, which I think is just so beautiful. And I really truly feel that she held on for that moment. And it's so sad because it was Mila's size. Mila was too small. Her body could not handle the impact of the bees. Meanwhile, Momo and Oliver, and you know Momo's big, they could. Momo healed and Oliver healed. I mean, we raised incredible money to be able to completely redo that room. And the whole point of that indoor room is that it is one gigantic cage with all these little entrances, and I can shut the entrances down, and then the big cage becomes different channels, different kennels. So if we ever have a hurricane, if we ever have another emergency, God forbid, like before, I'm prepared to just close a door and then boom. I went into healing after that. I mean, like, it was really, really hard. That was a really scary situation. I was afraid of losing the animals. I was afraid of things that would happen here, my control issues. A lot of OCD came out. Like I say, I do have PTSD. That is part of me. There are many, many different components and layers and years that make up that PTSD, and this is a small portion, but a big portion in the animal folder, we'll call it. And losing Mila, she was the first kink, and that was heartbreaking. But we did something beautiful out of it, you know. We made her beautiful little memorial graphic. We had a virtual memorial. Of course, she is right here, and her ashes are in my skin. There's 3 years in between that, right? And I mean, you guys know the main variables that have changed for me, but I will say that I did a lot of therapy. I've been seeing the same therapist almost every week for like 8 or 9 years. 8 years. She introduced me to a colleague who specialized in EMDR, not quite like hypnotism, but what it does is it allows you to get into a spot where you have the ability to rewire your brain. Maybe November of 2023 is when I started that. Maybe November of 2023. And then I had to take a break, and I actually have been doing it for most of this year again. And not just the EMDR, but other therapy as well. I think it's incredibly important to me. I work with 2 professionals. I'm not afraid to say that I go to therapy twice a week. Twice a week, that's what I need to do. You guys know I have 8.5 years of sobriety from my heroin addiction. You know, so it just is something that was implemented into what I need as a human being, and it works. And what I'm doing right now has been working. For me, I have been able to get off medication. I'd be able to change my reactions. You know, I've gone through periods of anger and the grief. And grief is still really heavy. You guys know, because it's like as soon as I get out from under one grief, we'll call it, another one comes. And I also haven't just been dealing with grief with the animals. I've also been dealing with it, you know, throughout my life in other ways. So it's been really, really heavy, especially this past year and a half, when I had to fight again to make sure that we kept this place. But I have to say again, one thing after another, no matter what happens, it's you guys that are behind me. You guys show up, you're there. This is what we are making. And it's absolutely incredible. So, and I wanted to open up to you guys. It's been a while. I'm proud that I did it without so many tears, but it still does come up, and that's, I guess, the point I wanted to make. That here we are 3 years later, and it's like my body can feel it. My body still feels it. The little things that pop up, and even Hercules, I mean, God bless him, he hurt his tail, and it looked exactly like Ariel's tail, and it takes me back there. I've had some really incredibly deep losses. I know you guys know. My heart's recovering. My heart's always in a healing mode, but it's hypersensitive, and I'm very vigilant, and it just is what it is. But this place is such an incredible blessing. You might think I'm a total nerd, but this is what I compare it to, okay? So I am the mother of Kinkajous. The mother of dragons went through fire to get her children. I'm the mother of Kinkajous, mother of honey bears. I had to fight through bees to get my children, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.